All right, you guys see this? This right here is a text message that I just received recently from my local Chevrolet dealership. And I have to read it to you guys because it's going to give you a lot of insight into what's happening. It says, "Hi Saimah, this is Paul from Simpson Chevrolet. I hope you're doing well. We just had a 23 black C8 Z06 arrive today and wanted to see if you had any interest. Let me know. Thank you." MSRP is $131,000. Asking price, drum roll please, is $196,000. And they proceeded to send me the sticker price, and I'm gonna show you guys right here that, to no surprise, the sticker price on this really was $131,000, which means that they are asking for a $65,000 markup on a Z06. And this is part of the reason why the car market is absolutely doomed and you need to move accordingly. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what's happening and what steps you should take in order to secure a vehicle that's going to last you over the next couple of years, because we are heading into an environment where buying vehicles is going to become less accessible and more expensive. So if you're in need of a car, you're going to have to move thoughtfully and quickly so that you don't end up overpaying for a car or paying high interest rates, and that's what we're going to break down. Okay, so I know that there are certain cars out there that are limited production, they're rare, or they're new, and the 23 Z06 is no exception to that rule. So it's perfectly normal to have markups on certain cars like that. Same thing goes with the new Porsche GT4 RSs, which a friend of mine just purchased for a $50,000 markup, and I know they go way above that. So yes, all of that does exist really in any market, especially when there is scarcity and a limited production. But there is a lot more going on to this market that many of us car buyers really need to be aware of before we end up in a situation to where either you're completely priced out of the market and you're not going to be able to afford a car, or you purchase something that is way overpriced. Now, it's no secret that in the last couple of years, since 2019, seeing crazy markups because of supply chain shortages really became the norm. And especially in the latter half of 2021 and 2022, a lot of people got caught in that position of buying cars that were overpriced. And now you see a ton of content being pushed out there where even for Turo hosts who are going bankrupt, it was primarily due to the fact that they bought cars that were marked up, 15, 20%. Whereas we know for this business, we actually need to buy below MSRP in order for it to be profitable. So with this whole mix of things going on, we actually need to understand fundamentally why the car market is really doomed, especially for the next couple years. And this is a point that a lot of people miss. Now, in 2019, things were normal, and then of course 2020 happened, which meant that we began to see supply chain shortages because manufacturing facilities, production facilities were all shut down, as was the rest of the world. No secret there. But what that ended up causing is a real shortage in supply. So whatever the lapse of time was, whether it's 6 months or a year in production shortages, that meant that there was millions of cars that were not produced that would have been produced, which obviously means that we have shortages. But the key thing to understand here is understanding where our used car supply comes from. Used cars are all born out of new cars. There has to be a supply of new cars, which then in the future creates used cars. But because of supply chain shortages and a halt to manufacturing back in 2020, we ended up slowing down the production of new cars. Then as things opened back up, production came back, into business, and people were pumping out supply again, but there is a lot of shortage in raw materials and semiconductor chips, which you absolutely need to produce cars. And even till today, we continue to experience those chip shortages. And if we don't have those chips, well, then we cannot produce cars. So what are you supposed to do if you find yourself in the position of starting up a new Turo business, you're wanting to buy cars, or maybe you just want to buy a car for your personal self, but you don't want to get ripped off or pay an arm and a leg? Well, in order to figure out what to do, we're going to take a look at this really helpful chart from cargurus.com. I love to look at their price trend graph, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how to find the best deals. Okay, so now a lot of people comment on my videos, and please do comment below because I love to hear the feedback that, oh, great car deals don't exist, prices are just crazy, interest rates are so high. But I'm here to show you that that is not true. And actually there are some great deals, believe it or not, at 0% APR and cars that are valued at or below what they were in 2019. The key thing here is that you have to do your research, you have to anticipate what's gonna happen in the market so that you can make the move at the right time. So what exactly do I mean by that? I mean that you have to recognize when is the best time for you to buy a car. And if it's a particular car that you're looking at, is the pricing right at this time, and what may happen to it in the future? So we're gonna take a look at this CarGurus price trend graph, because this is the clearest way of putting into perspective as to what's happened in the market. So if we look right here at this graph, I have it from August of 2019 to present day, and you can just see the steep incline in prices. So right here, we're just looking at general average prices of Fords, Chevys, Toyotas, Jeeps, and the CarGurus index price, which is giving you an average of everything. And it is just stunning, absolutely stunning to see that Ford's prices on their used cars on average sit 50% higher. I cannot emphasize that enough. 50% higher than what they were in 2019. That is bonkers, because I'm willing to bet for most people their income has not increased by 50% since 2019. So things are not moving relatively to each other. That back in 2019, the average Ford was almost half that of what it was today, so probably around $15,000. So that is just a massive, massive difference. And we can see right here, the craziest thing is that in the beginning of 2023 and towards the end of 2022, car prices actually began to drop. Finally, we were seeing some easing in the market, but as we get into the year and head into the summer, things have started to pick right back up to their all-time highs, which we experienced in mid-2022. So what's causing that? Now, again, a lot of what I explained about new cars creating the used car supply is really playing a huge role in that. Not only that, but there's a lot of other little things going on. So for example, most of our used car supply comes from leases, but there just wasn't that many leases in the last couple years because we didn't have that much new car production because, you know, obviously 2020 things came to a standstill, and then semiconductor chip shortages. So because there was no new cars, there was not as many leases, which in turn created not as many used cars. Not only that, but because car prices were soaring, a lot of people, including myself, ended up buying out their leases because it was a much better deal. And not only that, those cars appreciated because values had increased so much. Now, I recently sold my Porsche Cayman, which was a Turo car of mine. The lease ended, and because I had taken on that lease in the beginning of 2021, I got such a killer deal on it relative to today's market that I ended up buying out the car and flipping it for a pretty huge profit. And so a lot of people are finding themselves in that position, which again is not creating a lot of used car supply like we're used to seeing. Not only that, but dealerships have also figured out that if they have less supply on their dealership lots, not only is it costing them less money for flooring, right? So they have banks that finance them, that lend to them to have cars on their lots. So they're paying less in interest for those cars, but also a scarcity in supply creates higher margins. So they've figured out from the last couple of years that if they have less cars, they can charge more for these vehicles. So there's just so many factors at play that at the end of the day, these dealers in this industry really isn't looking out for the best interest of the consumer. So you have to really get creative and get smart about how to find the best deals. So this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna go on Car Gurus, and I'm gonna put this link down in the description below. You're gonna start tracking the car that you're looking for. So for me, and giving you guys a real life example here, I've been looking for Teslas, right? And here's why it's a steal of a deal. Now, if you look at Tesla in comparison to all these other brands that I have down here below, Tesla's prices are on average down 19.9% since 2019. That is a massive difference. That means prices are almost 20% cheaper than what they were in 2019. That you will almost not see anywhere, and there's many reasons as to why that is. And this is where it really helps to follow the brands that you love, the car that you might be thinking of, because you can educate yourself by what's happening in the news with these brands. So for example, recently Tesla did announce that they are going to lower their prices because they realized when they did their price hikes up here in 2022, yes, there was shortages. Yes, the raw materials were costing a lot more because of inflation. It was no longer affordable for their customer base. And their whole mission was to make EVs available to the masses at an affordable price. So since then, they've taken a couple of steps back. They have revved up their manufacturing because they do all of their manufacturing in-house from A to Z, end to end. They have the ability to do that, and they've created so many more manufacturing plants. So because of all of these factors, they are one of the only car makers that have the ability to really drop their prices and have plenty of inventory available for their customer base. So that means right now is the time to get a steal of a deal on Teslas. If you've been thinking about buying one, now is the time. And I know I've seen a couple of comments pop up on some of my videos, and I'm so proud of you guys. For those of you out there that waited, exercised a little bit of patience, and just recently bought your Teslas at a phenomenal price point, kudos to you, because that's the way to do it. Now, 20% below what it was in 2019, well, that makes the perfect type of car with some great margins in it for you to list on Turo as well. Of course, if your market is suitable for that type of car. Like my market is, now I know I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna get a killer deal, I'm gonna be able to list my car on Turo, it's gonna turn a profit, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. So if you wanna learn more about how to start, run, operate, and buy cars for your Turo business, you can check out my website, powerhost.club. I actually have an entire free car buying guide on how to buy cars in order to maximize profits that's gonna help you out with something like this. Okay, now let's say that a Tesla is not really the car that you're looking to buy, right? It's not for everyone. The other thing that you can do right now is really research which brands have a surplus of inventory, right? Because there's dime a dozen. There's so many cars, so many makes, so many models, so many manufacturers out there. And surely some of them, like Tesla, do have a lot of inventory. Well, one of the examples that I recently came across is Ford. Ford is actually doing really well in terms of inventory levels. So they're actually offering some amazing incentives like 0% APR financing, which again is unheard of in this environment. Many of you have challenged me on, hey, tell us where these deals exist because we don't see them. Well, they do exist, but you just have to dig and do a little bit of research. So right here, I'm on Ford's website here in Southern California. I mean, they have tons of really good deals. They're even doing cash back, bonus cash. So they are really trying to move this inventory. And if you do a little bit of research, you'll see, one of the reasons why they're offering such a great deal on a Ford F-150 is because they have such a surplus in inventory. And it's very important to think through your purchases right now because you just want to anticipate that in the next couple of years, supply shortages are going to continue to exist and there aren't going to be that many used cars because of the last couple of years since there weren't that many new cars. So when you go into making these purchases in a couple of years, your car, if you are buying brand new, will likely actually be worth more and probably hold its value, again, depending on the car, because there is going to be a shortage of used cars in the future. So you really want to think about that as you go into making these purchases, and you want to anticipate what's going to happen a couple years from now. Now, this actually makes it a really good sort of offer to purchase a vehicle for Turo as well, right? Because for Turo, we're always thinking about depreciation, and we're always thinking about what is the residual value on that car a couple of years from now, and if you need to exit out of it, what position are you going to be in? So if you can buy a car at a good deal right now, something like that Tesla, for example, or something like a Ford where you're getting 0% APR financing, you're getting cash back, and you're getting a good deal, and in a couple of years, we know that these cars are likely going to hold their value because of the shortages, well, then you find yourself in a really smart position. Financially, you made the right moves. You're going to find yourself in a position to where your car is going to have that value. You could potentially sell it, and that's exactly the sweet spot. That's where we want to be. We don't want to be the people who are overpaying, who are paying, 10, 11, 12, 13% in APR. That's not what you want to do. You don't want to give away your buying power to making interest payments. You want to be smart about how you get into that deal. So I'm going to do a whole bunch of videos on the best car deals that you can find, the cars that you should be shopping. And if you really want to learn how to negotiate the best possible deal that you can, because I love a good deal, hate paying retail for anything, check out this video that I posted recently, and it's going to walk you right through it.